Hey everybody, this is Jim the Tabletop Engineer and welcome to a new playthrough video. This one's not really a playthrough, but it's the start of one. I have been wanting to play a new round of Frostgrave Solo for a while. So what I'm going to do in this video, I've had a lot of people, I've had some people email me, but we have been playing at a local gaming store as a group, and I've had people asking me if they can come watch or if I could play a game with them and teach them how to do it. I'm always open to more Frostgrave players. So I thought what I would do is create this video, and instead of just making my solo wizard and then playing the game and recording it, I thought maybe what I'd do for the first few videos, including this one, is make my wizard and explain my reasonings behind it, and then for the first game or two I will actually record it and I'll try to narrate and explain the rules and the mechanics of it as I go. There might be some home rules that I'll add in, like wandering creatures and stuff like that, but I'll address that in that video. In this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera face down, and I have a character sheet that I'm actually going to make my character and explain how you do that. It's not hard, but it's for the second edition of Frostgrave, this one right here. So if you have this book and you've been wanting to play, check the video description below, because I'm going to put a link where you can download the particular character sheet that I am going to be using for this video. I'm not using the generic one from Osprey Games, but I'm going to use this character sheet, and I'm going to show you my thought process and how I am making my warband. You can make yours, you can make the same one I did, or you can make a different one, but I'm going to go through the rules for the soldier, the apprentice, and for the wizard, the apprentice, and the soldiers, and also picking my spells. So let's get to the tabletop, and if you have any questions, post them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, let's get to the table. Hey everybody, this is Jim the Tabletop Engineer. I have got the camera pointing down at my table here. This is a Frostgrave character sheet. I will post a link to where you can download this. This is not my creation. I found this online. The person who created it just did a really cool job. I really like this one versus the generic one that you can get from Osprey. So what I'm going to do in this video, this is Frostgrave 2nd edition. This is a game I have played way too much of. It's one of my favorite games, if not my favorite skirmish war game. It is written by Joseph McCullough, and I haven't played it in a while, but I want to start back. And I play typically when I either play a person, player versus player, or I play solo. Now right now I am playing in a campaign with some friends, but I also want to be playing it at home because there is a new expansion book coming out called Mortal Enemies, and in it your wizard is going to have this nemesis wizard. And so what I want to do today is I want to create a new wizard. I want to walk you through the process of how I'm thinking about this, because some of you may have never played Frostgrave, or you may be wondering how it works. So I'm going to be playing a solo game very soon with this wizard, but I want to do a walkthrough of the creation of this wizard. Now I'm going to use paper right now, but eventually I will transfer this into my iPad, because then I can use the iPad pencil to edit and scratch out numbers and things like that. So first off, the first thing you need to know is when you play Frostgrave, you're taking on the role of a wizard. You're going to have a wizard as your main character. Your wizard is going to have an apprentice, and then you're going to have up to, you don't have to have the max, but you can have up to 8 soldiers. The soldier is a generic term. It can be an archer. It could be a thug, which is just a guy with a sword. It could be a thief. It could be a knight, a barbarian. There's lots of different varieties of soldiers that you can hire. And when I say hire, they're going to have a cost to them that you have to pay. But the first thing you want to do if you want to start playing this game solo or against somebody, is you're going to have to pick a wizard. There are 10 choices of wizard. You can get Chronomancer, Elementalist, Enchanter, Illusionist, Necromancer, Sigillist, Soothsayer, Summoner, Thaumaturge, and Witch. So 10 in all. And I typically play a Witch or a Sigillist or an elementalist. But I think today what I'm going to do is I'm going to play something. I do like witch, so I'm confirming. The enchanter is one that I rarely play because they can enchant weapons, and it's a kind of a cool feature. But I've not really taken. I haven't picked the enchanter often as the primary wizard, but I think I'm going to try it. So, having done that, I am going to, under the School of Magic here, I'm just going to write in Enchanter. Now, your choice matters because it's going to affect the spells you pick. There are, I think, 8 spells for each of the classes, or each of the different style of wizards. So I will have 8 spells to choose from, but I cannot start out with 8. I will start out with just 3 spells from my primary school. Now, when you pick a primary school, you also get spells from 2 other schools. One is called an aligned school, and another is called a neutral school. And then there's one called opposed. I guess you could pick a spell from an opposed school, excuse me, but they are much harder to cast, and they can also be deadly if you miscast them. So, with the enchanter, I have 3 choices for aligned wizarding schools: elementalist, sigilist, and witch. And the witch is the one I'm really interested in. From the neutral, I have illusionist, necromancer, soothsayer, summoner, and thaumaturge. You get, from the aligned, you pick 1 spell from each of those 3. So you'll have 3 spells, 1 from each of your aligned schools. And then of the 5 neutral, you can only pick 2, and each one has to come from a different school. So what I'm going to do in the notes right now is I'm just going to write aligned is elementalist, sigilist, and witch. And the neutral school is illusionist, necromancer, soothsayer, summoner, and thaumaturge. And just so you know, the opposed is chronomancer. So basically it just means these are different schools that just don't gel well together. All right, I've got that. So once you choose your schools, you could jump straight to the spells, but we'll get to that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to fill out the stat line. Now, your wizard has 6 stats. If you've ever played a tabletop role-playing game like Dungeons & Dragons, you'll be familiar with stats like strength or intelligence. Well, in Frostgrave, you have 6. They are called move, fight, shoot, armor, will, and health. Health, pretty explanatory. Move, pretty explanatory. Fight is your ability to fight with a weapon or defend against an attack. Shoot is your ability to fire a ranged weapon. Armor is how well you're protected, and your will is typically used when you are fighting against magic. Like if somebody's trying to use a spell on you, sometimes it calls for a will check. So your wizard automatically starts out, every wizard level 1 starts out with the same 6 stats. 6 for move, which means you can move up to 6 inches per action. Fight is +2. So when the wizard is attacking, I get +2. If I'm defending, I get +2. I get +0 for shoot. The wizard's not good with a bow and arrow. Armor is 10, which is pretty much the lowest you can go. Will is +4, so the wizard is very strong-willed against other magic. And health is 14, and that can go up to a maximum of 20. So the wizard, not too shabby, starting out at 14. And all of these stats, I think all of them, all of them can be increased to a point, and we'll get to that later. Now, you have an apprentice. Your apprentice has the exact same stats, however, some of them are -2. Now, with the starting stat for the apprentice for fight is still 6, but the fight is -2. So you just get a +0 because the wizard is +2, -2 you get +0. The shoot is the same as the wizard, so +0. Armor 10. Wizard, the will is -2. So where the wizard has +4, the apprentice only has +2. And the health is also 2 less. Wizard has 14, so the apprentice starts with 12. Now, they all start with a certain amount of equipment. The wizard basically has 5 slots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The apprentice has 4. It has equipment here, but I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. So, for instance, you could carry a potion. You could carry 2 potions and a weapon, and you've still got 1 slot left if you're the apprentice. Let's see, what else? All right, so I've got my wizard and apprentice. Pretty easy. Now, we haven't picked the spells yet or the items. Items is pretty easy. There's a page you can go, you can get like a dagger. You cannot wear armor. You can start out with a hand weapon, but most of the time for my wizard, I give them a staff and a dagger, and that is it. Same with the apprentice, a staff and a dagger. Now, if you're making your own or following along, I think it's page 40, what is it? Where was it? On page 36. No, excuse me. 33, general armor. These are the weapons that you can assign to your wizard, except they could use a bow, they could use a crossbow. They just aren't very good at shooting. So I typically give the staff because when you're being attacked in melee combat, if you're using the staff, you subtract 1 from any damage you take. It's like you're using it to defend. So there you go. All right, so we have chosen the apprentice, and we've got the wizard and apprentice set. Next thing you need to do is you need to pick your soldiers. Now, in the original Frostgrave, first edition, you could buy any combination. You had a certain amount of gold to start out with, and you could just buy whatever you wanted to pay for. In the second edition, the soldiers are divided into 2 groups. You can have 4 from what's called a standard group, and you can have 4 from what's called a specialist group. All right? So 4 from standard, 4 from specialist, and unless there is a spell or some sort of new rule in an expansion that allows you to break this, this is the rule. So, 4 standard soldiers. You also start out with 400 gold. Now, your apprentice costs 100. So if you want to have an apprentice, you're down 100, so you're down to 300 gold. It is never recommended that you don't have an apprentice. Your apprentice is just your backup, and having 2 spellcasters is much better than having 1. But you could theoretically forego the apprentice and have 400 gold. But the new rules are really cool in the sense that thugs, which are the lowest level fighter type, they don't cost anything. You could get them for a cost of 0. So if you lose 2 or 3 thugs in combat between games, you just get 2 new ones. They're easy to recruit. It's when you want to upgrade to more powerful soldiers that you start paying for them. And that typically happens for the specialists, but there are some standard soldier types that do cost money. For example, the thug is 0, the thief is 0, but now we get to a warhound, which is a very fast attack animal. It costs 10 gold. The infantryman is 50, the men-at-arms are 75, and the apothecary is 75. Now, when you're starting low level 1, you know, it's best to save your gold or invest, in my opinion, it's best to invest as much of it as you can into the specialist soldiers because they're usually a little more rugged and a little more powerful. So, knowing that, I'm going to take 300 gold for my 4 specialists, and instead I'm going to take 4 thugs. I'm not going to go for a thief. I'm not going for a cheap warhound. I just want 4 thugs. So I'm just going to write thug in for all of these. Now I'm only going to fill in one of them because they all thugs have the same stats. That is until you start casting spells to like maybe buff a weapon of +1 or something like that. And then when that happens, you just make a mark and upgrade it for that game. But the thugs, they start out with 6 move, +2 fight, +0 shoot, very much like the wizard, armor 10, will -1. They are very susceptible to magic, and their health is 10. So they've got almost the same stats as the wizard, but a much lower health. And all they have is a hand weapon. Okay, they have a sword, and that is it. And like I said, their health is 10. And I've got 4 of those at no cost. So now what I want to do is I want to look at the specialist. Now the specialists run anywhere from 75 gold for an archer all the way up to 125 for a marksman. A barbarian is 125. A ranger is 125. A templar is 125. But let me tell you, this early in the game, and this is just from experience, when you invest a lot of money in some of these higher powered ones and you only have like one of them, like you have one barbarian, for example, or one marksman, if they die, you feel it. And then if you don't have enough gold, or if you haven't found any treasure during the game, at the end of the game, when it's time to recruit, you're just going to start adding more thugs to your list, which is not a problem. Thugs they're cheap, and if they die, no big deal. I have seen players run all thugs, and they sink their money into like potions and scrolls and things like that they can use in the game. But I do want a success. I do want a chance to keep my wizard alive. And what I have found, what me personally, as my style of gaming, I tend to favor ranged attacks over close combat, melee attacks. So if I go with an archer, I could get 2 archers for 75 gold each, or 150. So I could get 2 archers for 150. And that leaves me with another 150. I could go 4 archers. That's 150. That's 300. I have 300 gold to spend. I think that's what I'm going to do. I could go with a crossbowman for 75, but the crossbowman has to spend an action to reload. I don't like that. Now, they do have the crossbow does an extra point of damage, I think, when it hits. Let me double check that. Crossbow. So it has +2 damage modifier. That's what it is. So if you hit with it and damage is delivered, it does an additional 2 damage. But that 2 damage to me has never paired well with the fact that on your next turn, you have to spend one of your 2 actions. Now, this is something you need to know. In the game, every character, wizard, soldier, apprentice, whatever, is going to get 2 actions. One of those actions has to be a move. You don't have to move during your turn, but so you'll lose that action, but one has to be a move. That leaves you with just 1 action to shoot, attack, cast a spell, do whatever, drink a potion. So, as I said, with the crossbowman, if you buy a crossbowman and you shoot on your 1 turn, on the next turn you have to spend that 1 action you have to reload. So basically they can move and reload. Whereas with a archer, they can just keep shooting. So I could get a treasure hunter. A treasure hunter has 12 health. A tracker has 12 health. A knight has 12 health. The archer has 10. But the tracker and the knight and the treasure hunter, they have high fight values, like +3, +4. And what I like to do is I like to now sometimes my archers will have to engage in hand-to-hand, and for that they do have a dagger. But I like to be shooting at anything coming my way and try to get as many shots off to kill it as I can. And then if it engages me, I usually keep the thugs close by. So I am going to choose an archer, and I'm going to choose 4 of them. And that is my 300 gold gone. I have 0 gold left over, which is fine. Gold, here's the thing about gold. There is a rule in here that you have to agree to with your fellow player, that at the end of a game, you have this thing called the black market. And you can roll for like magic items and things to see what's for sale. Sometimes it's things that you don't want. Sometimes it's things you can't afford. And so my typical gaming philosophy with Frostgrave is, if you've got gold, you could, save it if you want to, but it's best to be spending it on new soldiers and items that you can actually afford at the time, or maybe upgrading your base. And we'll get into base in just a minute. So the archer is also 6 move, +1 fight. So in a hand-to-hand combat, they still get +1 to their fight. Now they only have a dagger, and if they hit with a dagger, it's -1 damage modifier. So it doesn't do as much damage. But the shoot is +2. Their armor is 11, their will is +0, and their health is also 10. So I've got 4 thugs, 4 archers. The thugs are for dealing with close things coming in close. The archers are for distance. And of course, your wizard and apprentice will probably be kept at a distance. I have not seen many players ever send their wizard and apprentice into combat. You want to cast those spells, and not just to keep your wizard safe, but also your wizard moves up in levels when they get XP. How do they get XP? Well, they get XP by casting spells. You get 10 XP per spell that is successfully cast, and if you fail casting a spell, you still get 5 XP. So you want your wizard and your apprentice, if at all possible during a game, you want them constantly firing off spells because that's how they get XP. Now you do get XP from things like killing monsters and getting treasure and stuff like that, but that's not always a guarantee. If you're playing an opponent and there are, say, 6 treasures on board, and your opponent gets 5 of them and you get 1 of them, you're going to get a little XP for that treasure, but they're going to get a whole lot. What I need to know is if I'm not going to get treasure for XP, or if I'm not killing a lot of creatures, I need my wizards getting XP by casting spells. So there you go. There is a space to name your apprentice and your wizard. I haven't done that yet. I will. Let's see, what else? I've got my soldier types. Now, the other thing you can do is if you had gold left over, you can buy some things like you can equip your soldiers, you can downgrade them. Like, for instance, if one carries a hand weapon, you could downgrade them to a dagger. It's not going to affect the stats. You could do it. I don't know why you'd want to do it, but that is a possible. You can never upgrade armor. You can't go from like light armor to heavy armor. If a soldier type says it uses light armor, you cannot upgrade to heavy. But I believe, I could be wrong, I think you can go from heavy down to light and you lose the -1 move penalty, but I'll have to double check that. That may be a house rule that somebody told me about, but it may be in the rules. All right, so now that we have our wizard and our apprentice, it's time to go pick my spells. Now, the spells are in the back of the book, and they are in, if you get the PDF, you could print these out and cut them up, because each one is a little square like a card. And they're broken down by wizarding schools. So here's Chronomancer. So the first thing I want to do is turn to the enchanter page, and I want to pick my 3 enchant spells. Now, the enchanter does a lot of things. They enchant like weapons and armor, and they can create things called constructs, which are like golems. They're like, monsters that wander around. But the golem just replaces one of your soldiers. So I'm not really into the constructs. So the options are, I've got animate construct, control construct. You could take control of an enemy construct if you had that spell, for example. I've got embed enchantment, enchant armor, enchant weapon, grenade, which is a weapon. It's an offensive weapon. I've got strength, and I've got telekinesis. Well, having played this game quite a bit, I will tell you that one of my favorite spells is telekinesis, because you can move things closer to you, like treasure chests. They may be halfway between you and your opponent, but if your wizard can cast that spell, you can move that treasure 6 inches closer to you. It just means your enemy's got to come that much closer to get it. So I'm taking telekinesis. Now, all spells have a casting cost, or a casting, what I call a target number, a TN. Telekinesis is a 10. It says right here, 10. That number is what it costs to cast this spell if you are in that school. So because I'm an enchanter, I can roll a d20, and if I roll 10 or higher, I successfully cast that spell. The enchant armor is an 8. It gets +1 to an ally's armor, or the wizard. So if I roll an 8 or higher on a d20, I could add +1 armor for the entire game. It goes away at the end of the game to one of my soldier types. Now, there is a spell out there that I think is a dispel magic, and they could cast that and remove that. But I don't know if my opponent will have that or not. But it's a good spell. I'm going to take enchant weapon, mainly because the ability to add +1 to the fight or shoot. You can cast it on a weapon, on a sword or a bow. It is, I'm going to put enchanter in here, enchanter, and I'll pick a third one. The casting number is 10, enchant weapon is 8, and I think I'm going to choose grenade. And I'm only doing this because every wizard really does need at least one spell that is offensive in nature, that can do damage. So I'm going to choose grenade as my back. Maybe I should have chosen enchant armor to give them that +1, but I'm going to rather boost their weapon than their armor. So the grenade is a cost of 10, and and it says line of sight, which means I have to be able to see the target. Same with enchant armor or enchant weapon. I have to have line of sight. Telekinesis, line of sight, whatever I'm attempting to move. So I've got my 3 from my school. Now I need to pick 1 spell from my 3 allied schools. And the allied are Elementalist, Sigilist, and Witch. So here's the Elementalist right here. And I have to pick one of these. I've got Call Storm, Destructive Sphere, Elemental Ball, Elemental Bolt, Elemental Hammer, Elemental Shield, Scattershot, and Wall. Now here's the thing you have to know about your allied schools. They have a cost to cast, but remember that's for the Elementalist. I'm not an Elementalist, so if I cast an allied spell as the Wizard, I automatically cast it at +2 on the target number. So for example, Wall is 10 for the Elementalist, but for me it's going to be a 12. Even worse, your Apprentice always casts a spell at +2 of the Wizard's cost. So my Wizard casting Wall would need a 12, but the Enchanter would need, or the Apprentice would need a 14. So what I tend to do here is I tend to go with the lowest cost spells. And I think for this, I'm going to choose Elemental. Well, I already chose Grenade as a weapon. Elemental Bolt will cost me 14 to cast. That's hard. That's almost, I don't even want to try that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose Wall. Wall will put up a 6-inch long wall of stone, 1 inch thick, or ½ inch thick, I can't remember, 3 inches tall. And it basically keeps the enemy from firing arrows at you or coming at you. They have to go around it. So I'm going to choose Wall. It is an Elementalist spell. And its cost is 12 for me. And remember, I'm going to put a slash and I'm going to add 2 to all these numbers to remind me what the Apprentice has to do. So I've got the Elementalist. Let's do the Sigilist next. The Sigilist is allied, so I need to add 2 to all these. I've got Right Scroll, Push, Power Word, Furious Quill, Draining Word, Explosive Rune, Bridge, and Absorb Knowledge. I'm going to tell you right now, based on experience, I love Push. You can push a friendly or an enemy directly away from the Wizard, and depending on how high you roll, you could send them a couple inches, you could send them 20 inches away. It's crazy. Now, it is a Sigilist spell. Its normal cost is 8, but my Wizard will have to roll a 10, and my Apprentice will have to roll a 12. And finally, Witch. I only get 1 Witch spell. I love the Witch. But I think what I'm going to do is, I've played the Witch before, and I've had access to all these spells. I really like Curse. Curse puts like a hex on an enemy, and it's -2 to all die rolls. And it's permanent. Except at the end of each round, the enemy can roll, that whoever it's cast on can roll the will roll, and if they succeed at it, it goes away. But it's a great way to like just tear your enemies down stat-wise. -2 to every roll. It will cost me an 8, but it's +2, so it will be a 10 and a 12. So I've got my 3 3 Enchanter spells, I've got my 3 allied, and now I need to pick the 2, excuse me. Remember, you can have 8 spells total. I'm going to be picking 2 from my neutral schools.
Check out the new RPG and Wargame Newsletter. Each week, the tabletop engineer shares news, products, Kickstarters, and much more related to the gaming hobby. It's free to subscribe, so check out the link in the video description below to sign up.
All right, neutral schools. I've got Illusionist, Necromancer, Soothsayer, Summoner, and Thaumaturge. This is the hardest part. You only get 2, and there's 5 schools to choose from. So let me come back here. Chronomancer is my opposed, so I'll skip that. I am at the Elementalist. I've already picked from that. Enchanter, I am an Enchanter, so let's keep going. Illusionist. You know what? The Illusionist does have this one spell I like called Glow. Where is it? Glow. Remember, I like to operate from a range. Glow, I definitely want Glow. Glow, it causes a figure to glow, and they become an easier target. It says for the rest of the game, all shooting attacks are at +3. So definitely like that. Now, multiple castings of glow on the same target have no effect. So the only way to get rid of that is if the opponent has something like the Dispel magic spell, or I can't remember which one it is. Let's see if I can find it. There is a spell that allows you to cancel a spell. I don't see it yet. So I'm going to cast glow. Now here's the problem. Glow is a 10. Neutral schools are +4 for the wizard. So glow is going to cost me 14 to cast and 16 for my apprentice. Rolling a 14 or higher on a 20-sided dice is risky, because if you fail your roll of casting a spell, you do get XP, but you can take damage. If you miss the target number, like 14 for example, if you miss it by within 1 to 4 points, you take no damage. But if it's 5 to 9 points, you take a point of damage. If it's 11 to, 5 to 9 is 1 damage. 10 to 19 points missed, you take 2 damage. If you miss it by 20 or more, you take 5 damage. You're probably wondering, how on a D20 would I ever roll like more than 20? Well, you can, because sometimes, let's say that somebody casts a spell on me and it's -2. Well, if the target number roll is 19 and I roll a 1, yeah, I mean that's not the best example, but there are ways that you can be forced to roll. Like if I roll a nat 20, if I roll a 1 and the target number is a 21, then I would miss it by 20. And how could it be 21? It could be 21 because I might have to attack a creature that has, I mean, I'm trying to think. It does happen. There might be cover or some other effect that has bumped the target number up to over 20. So there you go. Long story short, don't miscast your spells. You're going to do it, but the 14 and 16 means I won't be casting glow very often, mainly because it's just going to be so hard to roll that high of a number. Well, why choose it then? Because as your wizard grows in levels, you'll be able to lower the cost to cast spells. And at some point, I'm hoping that I'll start lowering that glow down to like 12 or maybe 10. And then it'll be a more useful spell. But early on, don't expect to see me casting glow when I'm a level 1, 2, 3 wizard, maybe even 4. That is a last-ditch effort spell right there. All right, so that one is a, what did I say, illusionist. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I get one more. Ooh. Necromancer. I don't really care for the Necromancer spells. There is one called Steal Health, but not really into that. Let's see. Soothsayer. True Sight, Wizard Eye, Suggestion, Mind Control. Just based on my own experience, Mind Control's interesting, but it's going to cost me 16. Wizard Eye is helpful. Wizard Eye, if you cast it, you can place an object on the table within 12 inches of the wizard casting it, and you treat that eye as distance from that point when you want to cast further spells. So if a spell says you can only cast it up to 10 inches, but you have a Wizard Eye 12 inches away, you could then cast a spell 10 inches further away from the Wizard Eye. It's like your wizard is there. They're able to see the battlefield and cast from that point. You can only have one at a time, and it is an 8. That's an option. Let me think about that. The other one, that was Summoner. I've got Leap, which I really like Leap. Leap allows you to jump an ally up to 10 inches. I mean, if they grab a treasure, you could, jump them. If the target is carrying a treasure, it's reduced to 5 inches. I totally forgot about that. That's a possibility. What else do I have? Thaumaturge. Heal. Heal's a big one. I mean, the ability to heal your allies or yourself or your apprentice is big. So it's gonna be between Heal, Leap, and what was it? Wizard Eye. Well, most of my spells are line of sight, so I think I can go without Wizard Eye. So that is Leap or Heal. Do I want the ability to heal 5 health on a figure within 6 inches? Or do I want to be able to leap one of my figures 10 inches? I'm going to take Leap. The ability to get one of your thugs like into action or to a treasure that you want to collect and then jump him out, or, you know, he can jump in 10, but then once he's got a treasure, you can only jump him 5. But still, you know, being able to do that on the wizard's turn, for example, and then this may leap spells may the target of a leap may take no other action. Okay, so once you've leaped a character, their turn is done. So you got to remember that, and I did remember that. The leap is a summoner spell. And its cost is 8, but it's a neutral, so it's +4, so it costs 12 and 14 for my apprentice to cast. All right, I've got my wizard, my apprentice. I have got 4 thugs, 4 archers, and 8 spells. My wizard is ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to transfer. Well, I may just keep it on the paper until after I use it the first time. Normally, I transfer all this into a PDF I have that I keep on my iPad, and then I just use my Apple Pen to scratch out numbers and modifiers, and then when I'm done, I erase it, and the original number is still there. But anyway, doesn't matter. I am going to set up a solo Frostgrave game, and I'm going to play it with my enchanter. And that first game, I am going to go through the rules of movement and casting spells and things like that for those of you who are new to this game. I am going to be playing it solo, not versus an opponent. If I were going to play, would I play this versus an opponent? Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad. This is not a bad wizard. He's got ranged archers, thugs to get in there and fight. I like my spell choices. But it all, you know, there's 10 schools to choose from. So you've got plenty of options. And every player has their own style. Some like an aggressive, in-your-face attacking, and they'll load up with melee soldier types and may even give their wizard and apprentice spells like shield and things that can buff them up so they can get into it. I've played all different types of opponents that have run different characters. You just never know what you're going to be up against. All right. The next video will be a game of Frostgrave, a solo game for you people who have never played Frostgrave and want to see it in action. If you have played Frostgrave, you can still watch it. It's just I'm going to be talking about the rules and things as I play. So, and then at the end, I'll show you how you get XP if you collect treasure and kill creatures and things like that. I'll show you how you take that XP and improve your wizard and apprentice. When your wizard levels up, your apprentice levels up. Remember that. So your apprentice is always -2 for certain attributes. So when an attribute goes up for the wizard, it usually goes up for the apprentice. Also, when you reduce the cost for a spell of the wizard, it also reduces the cost for the apprentice to cast that spell. All right, I will scan these 2 documents in, and I will make them available as a PDF with this video. So look in the video description below, and you can download this PDF if you want to take a look at it. I will also add the link so you can get this character sheet if you want a copy of it. All right, that's all I got. This is Jim, the Tabletop Engineer. I am ready to play a game of Frostgrave Solo, 2nd edition, and I hope you'll join me in a week for that video. Until then, everybody, take care.